Bitcoin does the same exact thing every single presidential election cycle. It didn't matter if it was 2012, 2016, or even 2020, Bitcoin followed the same price pattern, and this year it is shaping up the same. This is the most important video you'll ever watch if you want to protect your Bitcoin investment, because we have dove into the charts and we're exposing Bitcoin's next move, everyone. Now, Bitcoin's 59K price may swing drastically amid election year parallels. I have identified the parallels, and we're going to show you what Bitcoin did every single time, and then I have a price target and when you should sell your Bitcoin. So he explained that Bitcoin's recent downturn is similar to patterns seen in 2012, 2016, and 2020 ahead of the presidential elections. So let's see the drawdown that they are talking about. Now, I have, this is a big daily chart that we're looking at here. So we're going to cut to the 3-day just to make it a little bit more easy. The large yellow vertical lines is the day that we held elections. You can see we hold it every 4 years in November. But let's go ahead and identify the downturns that happen usually about a month or two ahead of the election. Now, this is the downturn of the most previous election around 2020, and you can see, pretty quick 16% move to the downside. This happened approximately 2 months almost to the day ahead of the election. But what about 2016? So that was 2020. Well, I'm seeing another drawdown, and then this drawdown looks even more drastic and violent to the downside. You can see a very, very sharp correction of 30%, and this happened shortly before the election, 100 days, so about 3 months. So 2 months ahead of time, and then 3 months ahead of time. But what about the first one, which is 2012? And folks, what do you know? You see another sharp correction to the downside, and that one is the biggest of them all. Here, just insane wick to the upside, and then a 57% drop. I can't imagine being in the markets at that time, and this was 80 days. So between 2 and 3.3 months, you can expect to see a downturn for Bitcoin. Well, when we fast forward to today, you can see we just experienced a drawdown. And folks, the charts are starting to look pretty dang similar if you ask me. That was a 30% drawdown. And what do you know, when we look at the time frame, fits right in that schedule about 2-3 months ahead of time. So we saw what happened before the election, but what about what happens after the election? Because that's the important thing. I want to protect your Bitcoin investment. I do want to give a big shout out to Houdini Swap, helping sponsor the channel. This is a great bridge. You can send, swap, or bridge 4,000 tokens. So you want to get some more Bitcoin? Oh, you trade in some Solana, trade in some Ethereum, or 3,998 other tokens. But let's talk about what happens after the fact. Because folks, this is the blueprint for what Bitcoin is going to do in the coming months after the election. Folks, when we zoom out a little bit, you can't help but notice very bullish price action follows the election every single time. This was November 20, and Bitcoin decided to just go on an incredible run. Ended up gaining about 320% over the next 160 days. But what about 2017, 2016? Well, folks, it also looks insanely bullish. This was November 2016. And then we hit over a 2,000% pump. That took about 400 days. But there was still a short-term, nice little move to the upside. 200 days, a 300% pump. And then just look at the first cycle of 2012 after an election. That had an insane move of another 2,000% pump, this time in 154 days. But what can we expect this cycle? I think this cycle is going to look a little bit more like the most recent cycle because we now have a mature market. And I'm going to have my Bitcoin price prediction in a second, as well as when you should sell, because Bitcoin is telling us when we should sell when we start looking at the other previous cycles. Now, let's go to Polymarket real quick. It does look like, Donald Trump has recently taken a little bit of a lead from Kamala Harris on Polymarket specifically. And when we look at Polymarket, now they're saying we have a 21% chance of having a $100,000 Bitcoin in 2024. And I have found the path to over $100,000 Bitcoin. And for us to do that, we're going to look at the most recent price action. This is Bitcoin over the past few months. This starts right here in March. This is the parallel channel we've been talking about a lot because we've been trading it a lot. We've been trading it very successfully. Now, right now, it is respecting the middle part of the parallel channel. I told you this was important in the past, and it's continuing to be important. But when you look at what happened with this middle line within this parallel channel, we have knocked against it in the past. You knock it against it again, knock against it again, and then you burst through that door. You burst through the wall like the Kool-Aid man. Then we knocked against it again, and then we burst right through that wall like the red juicy dude. And then we're in the middle of pushing against this barrier. And I'm expecting Bitcoin to burst through probably over the next 3 to 5 days. But let's talk about price action and price prediction. What is Bitcoin's path for 100K this year? Well, folks, I'm looking at this chart pattern right here. This was a previous parallel channel, not nearly as long, but a previous parallel channel that was being respected. And folks, wait till you see this. You're going to fall out of your chair because this is going to make you even more bullish on Bitcoin than you already are. And trust me, if you're anything like me, you're feeling pretty bullish. Now we're going to go ahead and get the trend line here. And this is a little bit of a breakout that formed. So you can see, we had our little flagpole, we kind of trade around, and then we burst to the upside. Well, what happens, traditionally, you would measure the breakout as the length of the pole. There's no way that this works. Oh my God, look at that. It works almost exactly, everybody. And so let's do the same thing with this little parallel channel that we're trading in. Let's go to move this. Let's get the right height there, the right angle. And so this is going to give us our Bitcoin price prediction. And then we're going to look at the date here. Let's just say it takes us a while to burst out. I'm going to put it in the second half of September. And the sharp-eyed viewers are seeing the number on the top right there, $116,000 Bitcoin. And if we look at the date, that's in October. I don't think it can hit it by October, but I certainly think it can hit it between Thanksgiving and Christmas Day. So Bitcoin does have a path to 100K plus this year. You can see what happened with the previous elections as well. Bitcoin, performed very bullishly after every single election. It didn't matter what year, didn't matter if it was Trump, Obama, or Biden. Bitcoin just loves pumping after an election. I think it's going to do the same thing here. We've seen a lot of similarities. We just saw the dump, and I think we're going to see the pump. And I just ask you pump those like buttons on the way out, and I'll see you after the election with your Bitcoin bags.